So we're the headline sponsor for the event for International Women's Day with URBOND Community here at the Royal Beach Hotel in Southsea. We're super pumped and excited today because we've got like 17 stall holders and a great DJ, you can probably hear in the background. We've got the music pumping out and the vibe really going. So we're looking forward to actually being part of this event today as the main sponsor, but also I'm speaking, believe it or not, so that's slightly terrifying in a good way. And I'm speaking about confidence and entrepreneurship to inspire the next generation of women in Portsmouth to start businesses. So an exciting day, we're really looking forward to it.
Right, okay. So thanks very much for having me today. I'm just gobsmacked by the people that are here, so thank you very much for turning out on a Saturday in Portsmouth when it's a little bit wet and windy, I suspect, outside now. International Women's Day to me actually should be every day of the year. But what we can do here today is actually start to talk about women, about their place in society, and also what we can do to raise confidence. So I just wanted to talk today a little bit about confidence and entrepreneurship. So what I want to do, because anybody that knows me really well knows that I'm very much into audience participation, is I want to talk about what is confidence. So what would you say confidence is? Anybody like to hazard a guess? That's where it goes really quiet. Valen, say that a little louder, my darling.
I thought I was loud enough. You're able to express without reservation.
Yeah, able to express yourself without reservation. I think that's a really good sort of reference. So basically, the dictionary definition from the Cambridge Dictionary is the quality of being certain of our abilities, of having trust in people, plans, or the future. But confidence is very important to everything that we do in entrepreneurship and also in business and as women. So what makes somebody confident? Does anybody like to hazard a guess? Anne?
Having the courage to act.
Having the courage to act. Anybody else?
Having the belief to act.
Having the belief to act, yeah. Anybody else?
Having that sense of belonging.
Sense of belonging. So yeah, they're all really, really important things. So confidence isn't just one singular thing. It's something that comes from inside us. It's definitely an emotion. But what does a human person need to be successful? So this is anybody. Does anybody know the answer to this?
Feel loved.
Yeah? So there's actually, anybody who knows me knows how much I love a business model. Okay? So there's a diagram here, which probably you can't see at the back, so apologies for that, of what we call Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So it's a very posh way of saying, what do people actually need in order to function as human beings? So I don't know whether you've seen this before, or if you haven't, but it's a very, very good diagram. And as a visual thinker, which I am, I'm very much a visual thinker, I'm not a word person, this is actually lays out the basic needs of what a human person needs to survive and thrive. So at the bottom we have the red zone, which is what we call physiological needs. So those are things like food, water, warmth and rest. And when we see displaced communities or where we see war, these needs at the bottom aren't met. And then we have safety needs, so security and safety. These are the very, very basic needs that we need as human beings in order to thrive. We move up then to psychological needs, which is belongingness and love, relationships, friends, and to be loved by people. And then we move up to what we call self-esteem needs, prestige, feeling of accomplishments, jobs, meaning in our lives. And right at the top, we have something called self-fulfillment, where we're actually so self-actualised that we actually can go out and change the world and do really, really cool things. So what psychological factors are at play here? Now, another model which I made up yesterday, mainly in a panic at my desk, was this. So I call this the circle of confidence mindset. So this isn't actually a model made by anybody else except me. And at the top, you've got confidence. But to have courage, you need confidence, and you also need to have a solid mindset, and you need to obviously then be empowered to act upon whatever it is that you want to do. These four factors all link in a big circle, like an ecosystem. And at the bottom, it leads to what we call resilience in business. So if you don't have these four things, then you can't actually be confident. And also you can't be resilient in business. You can achieve anything that you wish to, but you might have to change. So has anybody actually changed anything in their lives and felt really, really terrified? I think I was speaking to Annie earlier, and she was saying that she was doing some really cool things. But was it quite frightening, Annie, when you started to change things?
It was frightening, yes.
Yeah.
Not knowing that you will get there, but once everything has to get to a place, it's that feeling that confidence.
Yeah. So I think that you're absolutely right. Is if people aren't actually willing to be uncomfortable, they can't actually change. And change is terrifying. Change means that we're actually going to have to go right out of our comfort zones, doing new things that we've never done before. And it's really, really hard. Because most of us, to be honest, and I'm with most people, would like to stay indoors in my pyjamas eating chocolate digestives biscuits. But in order to change the world, we have to go outside our own front door. Now, this was my school report from when I was about 9 years old, okay? Handwritten, because I am that old, I am that crusty, I'm 50 years of age. And this was about probably age 9, so it would be about late 70s in Leicestershire. And beautiful handwriting, my teacher I thought at the time, she couldn't write in very straight lines. But I wanted to show you that confidence is actually something that you can learn, because I wasn't a confident child. I'm still quite shaky now, as you can probably tell. So what this actually says, my maiden name obviously, Watkins, before I got married. Rebecca has continued to build on the foundations she laid last year. She is more than enthusiastic and at times proving articulate and well able to hold a mature discussion. People probably wouldn't say that about me now. Her lively and imaginative comments are quite stimulating, and she's developing quite a subtle sense of humour. She still lacks confidence in her own ability. How many women put their hands up because they can still say the same? Oh, everybody, men as well. They all lack confidence in their own ability. And this is highly amusing, because I've worked in engineering and technology for 25 years. She still lacks confidence where mathematics is concerned. Who knew? Nevertheless, she has made sound progress and is capable of much more than she realises. Now, I think this is true of all women. All of you in this room are much more capable than you realise. You just need the right conditions and the right confidence to thrive. And it also says she needs constant encouragement to build her confidence. Do you think we're all a little bit like that? I think we're all a little bit like that. So this is me, age 9, on my climbing frame, in the back garden in Glenfield in Leicestershire. Now, in the 1970s, everything was slightly unsafe. It's a miracle that we're actually still here now to tell the tale, because this climbing frame, to be honest, was about 8 foot high and didn't have anything other than solid earth underneath it. And there'd been a few hot summers, and 1976 being one of them. And my parents' idea of building resilience in me was letting me fall off the top of the climbing frame. A lot. I spent a lot of time in hospital during this time with various bandages from falling off this climbing frame. And this look is the look that really worries my husband, because it means I'm about to do something really brave. It means that I'm probably pondering something with a slight wry smile, and he still avoids me at all costs now when this look comes out of the frame, because he knows something really bad's going to happen. So I think resilience for me was always about being free to do what I wanted. And I think the 70s and the 80s in Britain especially were very, very good for that. We were allowed out all times of the day and night. We had a very, very different upbringing, very different childhood. And I was encouraged to take risks. And I was encouraged to fail. And I fail a lot. Even now, I fail more than I succeed. So what I would say to people is, don't be afraid of failing. Failing is the thing that will make you successful. And the more failures you have, the more success that you will have. So I wanted to talk a bit about Startup Disruptors today. So Startup Disruptors started with 9 people in a Portsmouth pub in 2016. It's now larger than Hampshire Chamber of Commerce and the FSB in Portsmouth alone. We're the largest digital incubator of its kind in the UK, and we're the first person in actually the whole of the country to create the Netflix of entrepreneurship education, where people pay us to access world-class education from £20 a month. So what is Startup Disruptors? Sorry about the lines of text here, but I've got a memory that doesn't retain a lot. So Startup Disruptors is a first of its kind online incubator that supports startups, and we're accredited by UK universities for learning delivery. We're backed and sponsored by the University of Portsmouth Business School. We're also backed by venture capital companies and also by funding companies from across the world. And we're on a mission to make gender parity real in business. This will allow social mobility throughout business in the UK to actually give gender parity for the first time. We protect the interests of neurodiverse business owners, including those with ADHD, ADD, dyslexia and dyscalculia. And we also partner with Solent Mind for mental health support. We are making, or we have made, world-class education possible at an accessible price for the first time in the world. So, you'd like to see some old photos of me, I'm sure, of what we actually did. So in terms of how we created this is the story behind what we've been doing for the last sort of 6 or 7 years. So I call this my timeline of entrepreneurial achievement in building the Netflix of entrepreneurship education. So in 2015, 2016, as part of Global Entrepreneurship Week, I started my business from the kitchen table in Gosport, not even Portsmouth, and organised startup fairs with the University of Portsmouth Business School. I started working with the university at this time, basically on a 12-week free contract. I went in, I told them that I could get a tremendous result. They didn't believe me. I said if I could, would they pay me? They said yes. What fools they were. They've been paying me ever since, for about the last 10 years. I also brought NatWest, an entrepreneurial spark, to Portsmouth, helping over 100 people to start up from home, which is this little picture here. And I founded the brand Startup Disruptors and I started pub meetings for market research. I spoke to probably over 2,000 people during this time just to find out what the problems were, what women were actually facing, and what neurodiverse people were facing in the Portsmouth region. And I started to build a digital online presence using social media. I'm as tight as anything because I'm from the north, so I don't believe in paying for anything. So I wanted to do lots of stuff for free. This was one of our earliest pub meetups. Anybody recognise the pub? Name that pub. Stephen Morgan, who's spending way too much time in the pub with me, clearly. So yeah, it's the Old Customs House in Gunwharf Quays. We started just off Osborne Road in a very small pub, but we had 150 people in a year, so we needed to up the size of the pub. That was my excuse anyway. And they also served really good cake and chips, that was the other reason. But for me, it was about how do we start to do more, how do we get more volume, and actually using online means was really, really important for this. So throughout 2017, 18 and 19, I was doing what we call market research phase and getting early adopters to actually buy stuff off me. This was really, really important. I was also nominated from 10,000 applicants to become one of Sky News 100 Women in Business and one to watch in the UK. I nearly died at this point, quite frankly. I couldn't believe that I'd even got through. I got a call from Sky News on, I think it was a Monday evening, and I actually thought it was a joke. I thought I was being pranked by somebody. And they said, we're calling up from Sky News, can you come to the studios in 2 days? And I was like, come on, you're winding me up. And I went, and it was really cool. And on International Women's Day in 2017, we did a big panel, pretty similar to something that we're doing here today. I was also recruited by Faster Capital, which is a tech incubator in Dubai, and Notion Capital in London, to mentor tech startups worldwide. These are two of the largest venture capital companies in the world with massive investment networks. I also took Startup Disruptors to Chichester and Southampton. Uber sponsored me. I'd had a really bad week. I'd gone to Uber and I was crying my eyes out to the guy that was running the head of cities at the time because nobody would help me. All the doors were shut. All the men that I was approaching in Portsmouth were like, you're bonkers. This is never going to go anywhere. Why would you want to do this? Everything's free in terms of business support. Why would anybody pay you? And actually one man said to me, I'll never forget, what gives you the right to do this? And I said, what gives you the right to ask me? And that's how you have to be. That is resilience. That is actually saying it's unacceptable and I'm not accepting your view of the world anymore. I organised hundreds of events to find out more about the issues facing home-based startup business owners. For women, we found there was a lot of issues around caring for children, caring for older people, caring for everybody, often not having time to do what they wanted. So I actually started to do events in the evenings and at the weekends so that people, and especially women, could attend. I heard horror stories about exploitation of neurodiverse people being ripped off. So anybody with ADHD might have impulse control issues around spending, as we know, and people were getting rinsed of thousands of pounds. And that for me had to stop. So it's about creating a safe space for people as well. Here's us at Uber, crazy peeps at the top. In 2020, obviously, we had a little bit of a pandemic, and I was out of action with COVID for 9 months, so I got hit really hard in the first wave and was flat out. And that was the time the phone started ringing. So just as I had been really, really running at 1,000,000 miles an hour, I was flat out in bed. The phone was ringing, people saying, can we sponsor, can we do this, it's really growing. And I was like, I can't even get up. It's just not going to happen. It's probably might not happen again this year. I then had a gallbladder surgery, so that took me out for another 4 months. But we basically then moved all online. because we had to. We were already dabbling with it, but then we moved all online. So it was a huge pivot for us in 2021. What we did do was we made my husband the operations director of my company, and we also hired Joe. He's our first external hire from the University of Portsmouth Business School. And then Portsmouth Business School said, we'd like to accredit you for all of the stuff that you've done around learning delivery, and also we'd like to advocate you and sponsor you as well. We've just taken on the University of Essex as another partner, and also Faster Capital, Uber, Zebra Accounting, Notion Capital and the Sasha Group all put up money, and these are huge names from across the globe. We did, because we have to own this as women, Portsmouth the #1 entrepreneurial city in the UK in 2020. That was what I was driving for. We have to change the city. We have to do it. We have to beat London. We beat London. That was what I wanted. We beat London. Come on, we beat London. So that, to me, was the most important thing. How do we beat London? And I rang up this guy here, who has a guy called Chris Topman, who actually owns a venture capital company. I said, I'll beat you. And he went, in what? I said, we're the most entrepreneurial city in the UK. And he put the phone down on me. And 10 minutes later he rang back. He says, I'm sorry, I was in a meeting. I shouldn't pick the phone up. He just said, mate, well done. He said, I can't believe that you've done it. And it was splashed all over Yahoo Finance across the world. How many of you knew that we'd achieved that? Nobody? Drame knew? Why did we not know this? Why were we not shouting about what we're good at? This city is tremendous. Why are we not shouting out what we're doing a bit more? By this time, we'd helped over 4,000 people to start up in Portsmouth. 4,000 we'd helped. And I want to help 20,000 more in the next 3 to 5 years, and then probably 1 million after that in the next 10. So don't let people say that it can't be done, because I don't believe it. Business is about people. If you don't understand people, you won't have a business. It's as simple as that. There's nothing more important than what we're doing together today in this room. And if we actually work together, we can achieve anything that we want to achieve. Top tips for building confidence. These are mine. Be yourself. I'm Ginger, I'm 50, I'm overweight. I look like a middle-class, middle-aged Waitrose shopper, but I'm proud of it. Beware comparison. You are totally unique. Your odds of being here as a human, 1.4 trillion to 1. You've beaten those odds to be here today. Be born, be here. Be a great human. Build a trusted network. Trust the people around you, trust the people in this room. Seek out positive people and situations. And this includes shutting off the noise in your family if they're negative towards you. Walk away from them. Ignore the haters. Everybody's got those if they're successful. The block button on social media is very, very handy, I tend to find. I get trolled a lot, I get death threats, I get all sorts of abuse. Just ignore it. You're successful, and you keep doing that, you keep going, and I'll be behind you 110%. So, some of our success stories, some of the inspiring women of Portsmouth that we've helped. Number 1, Tricia Dunbar. She's the digital lead for Soul at Mind. You might have met her already. She has ADHD, and she also has dyslexia. She's one of our biggest advocates, has been a member since 2016. She has a side hustle called Language Learners Journal, and she's also one of the top 3% writers on a digital platform called Medium. She's amazing. If you ever meet her, and I hope that you do, she works for Soul at Mind, and they're one of our partners for mental health and wellbeing in Startup Disruptors as a community. Lady in the middle is a lady called Ali Shillimore. She owns a graphic design company in Portsmouth. She's a mum of 3 boys under 10. I don't know how she does it. I run a business. She's absolutely inspirational. And Ava runs a sustainable clothing company. She was one of our earliest startup disruptors. And it was really key when Ava came in that she was really looking for a sense of community in what we actually did, because she was very lonely and very isolated. So for us, it's about how do we connect people quicker to actually get support in a group that really, really cares. So those are some of the success stories. We have a 50-50 split in our group because we believe in balance and diversity and inclusion. It's very, very important. So if there's any questions that anybody's got, then obviously come and see me on the stand. If you want to find out more, it's startupdisruptors.co.uk, you can do, or just search us, we'll come up #1 on Google, because that's who I am. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure and delight.